I'm in debt with the President Trump. Amazing, you know. Thank God he's in the White House.
All right, who you just heard from there was George Glesman, a 66-year-old American citizen who spent more than 2 years being incarcerated by the Taliban. He is a Delta Airlines mechanic, and he spent 2.5 years of captivity in Afghanistan. And he is now on his way, or he is already now, as of the time you're watching this, reunited with his wife, Alexandra. And this is what he had to say upon landing on American soil.
This is exclusive
George,
to Fox
home.
News.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
How does it feel to be back on U.S. soil?
I'm amazed. You know, I feel like born again. God, I have no words. But anyways, I'm in debt with the President Trump. Amazing, you know. Thank God he's in the White House.
George Glesman, like us, are thanking God that Donald John Trump, our duly elected and beloved president, is back in the White House. And what makes this second administration of President Trump, the 47th administration, so awesome is that President Trump has MAGA people already in place, hitting the ground and getting things done in partnership with President Trump and not fighting against him, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who had a big hand in making this happen.
Where he's at, and thank God he got me out. Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, Adam Boehler. I'm in debt with everybody that was involved in this situation because they got me home. A free American individual, free from the hands of these people that abducted because of my U.S. passport, basically.
Kind of reminds me how I feel that President Trump, I'm so thankful he's back in the Oval Office, because it seems like we were abducted by the hardcore leftists and Marxists over the last 4 years. And we are once again starting to enjoy our liberties and freedoms that are God-given, but protected by the Constitution, something the left absolutely hates and continues to show how much they hate as they fight back against we the people and President Trump.
And I'm just thankful. I got no words to express my gratitude for my liberty, my freedom.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sometimes, I would say often, when you are truly grateful, there really are no words that can express true gratitude. All right, let's get into some more wins of President Trump. And this has to do with the state of Maine and President Trump, who has vowed and is working, keeping his promise of protecting women's and women's spaces and in women's sports. So the Maine universities have agreed to keep men out of women's sports after Trump administration funding pause. Now, this actually came through the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They announced that the University of Maine system, they were going to cut off the funding for programs that they have there because they were not in compliance with President Trump's Title IX. And it was announced this week that they have agreed to keep transgender identifying men out of women's sports in compliance with President Trump's executive order. And guess what? The spigot opened up yet again. The USDA temporarily paused funding for UMS, which is comprised of 8 public universities in the state, over the issue and reinstated funds just days later. The department said the university system is now compliant with Trump's order. Now, I love this because they're not playing games at President Trump's USDA. Still, it warned that if any false claims by the University of Maine can and will result in onerous and even potentially criminal financial liability. So, you have men in women's sports. The federal government under President Trump says, okay, that's fine. We're just not going to fund you. Oh, you are in compliance. Within days later, they unpause the funding. This is how you hit many of these people. You do it in their pocketbooks. Speaking of hit, looks like some people are going to start hitting the road, and they're going to do it. Over 500,000, hopefully, are already doing it and saving us, or starting to do it and saving us, the taxpayer, the burden. We have here CBS News reporting, U.S. to revoke legal status of more than 500,000 migrants, urges them to self-deport. And this has to do, once again, with President Trump correcting these incredibly illegal programs and schemes of the Biden administration. President Trump is set to strip the status of 532,000 plus migrants living in the United States who were flown in on Joe Biden's parole program. So he flew them in, but now they're going to have to get their asses out on their own dime or be deported. Now, if you recall, President Biden had more than 500,000 migrants come in through this CHNV program, in which 500,000 people came in from Haiti, Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. CBP data actually found that over 1 million illegal aliens have been allowed into the U.S. through what the Biden regime called as legal means, but they're not really legal. They just circumvented the law. The Biden-Kamala administration used the CBP One app and the CHNV program to allow illegal entry into the U.S. And recall that right now the name of the program is not the app is not CBP One, but CBP Home. Like, you register that you are leaving our country, that you've entered illegally, and that you're going back home. Now, the numbers I'm discussing here don't include the millions of people that came through the border illegally or were caught and released. We're talking specifically, these numbers are just the CHNV program of over 500,000. It's been previously reported that 81% of the Haitian migrants from Biden's parole program, 362,000 of 448,000, were flown into red states. Once again, they did this on purpose. They didn't send them to blue states where they said, here, we're sanctuary cities, but they sent over 80% of those Haitians that flew into red states. And now President's telling them that if they don't self-deport, they will be arrested. This is what CBS News is saying. The Trump administration will be revoking the legal status of hundreds of thousands of Latin American and Haitian migrants welcomed into the U.S. under a Biden-era sponsorship process, urging them to self-deport or face arrest and removal by deportation agents. The termination of their work permits and deportation protections under an immigration authority known as parole will take effect in late April, 30 days after March 25th, according to a notice posted by the federal government. The move will affect migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela who flew to the U.S. under a Biden administration program known as CHNV that was designed to reduce illegal immigration at the U.S.-Mexico border by giving would-be migrants legal migration avenues. A total of 532,000 migrants entered the U.S. under the policy, which was paused soon after President Trump took office, though it is unclear how many have been able to secure another status that will allow them to stay in the country legally. Now, what, and I'm going to be transparent here. I think this is, this is a pretty harsh move. I'm not saying this is the wrong move. I'm saying it's the harsh move because many of these people think that they came legally. And then now they have to go back. Now, one thing we do know why, this has to be done is that there was little to no vetting on a majority of these cases. So how many people took advantage of it? And maybe this hits close to home because my youngest daughter, who just got back from serving a little under a year and a half as a missionary, served with Haitians. She learned Haitian Creole, as a matter of fact. So now that's her fourth language. Obviously, we being Hispanic and American, or American Hispanics, she speaks English, she speaks Spanish, a little bit of Portuguese, and she learned Haitian Creole. But this is a tough one, and I think this one's going to probably get a lot of pushback. And these people came under a program that Biden illegally schemed to get them here on. But as far as they knew, they were flown and invited to come here and were given some sort of temporary legal status. They had work permits and the whole thing. I think this one is going to be quite a bit messy for President Trump and his administration. Once again, I'm not opposing it. I'm just saying that this one's a tough one. I don't think this is one that we could just go, yeah, get them all out, because many of these people think they are here legally, and now they're being asked to self-deport. Speaking of getting people out that aren't vetted, that we don't know who they are, and if we did know who they are, many of them we wouldn't want here. Let's talk about the other program that President Trump has, the Golden Visa program, which is the exact opposite. The exact opposite. President Trump's Golden Visa scheme is already pulling in billions of dollars in revenue for the U.S. economy. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick explained how President Trump has come up with the idea and revealed that he sold 1,000 golden visas in just one day. Quote, John Paulson had a call with Donald Trump and was talking to Donald Trump and was kicking around the idea of, should we sell, right? Why do we give away visas? We should sell them. And they're talking about it. Donald Trump calls me and gets me on the phone, right? We all talk about it, right? Then we go from there. And then my job is to figure out, like I always figure out, how to do it. So President Trump said, why are we giving away these visas? It's letting people coming into our country, and there's people that could afford to buy the visa that we will vet, that they're rich, that they will add to our economy, add to our business, and be an asset to our country. Why don't we just sell it to them? And then Lutnick says, okay. And then President Trump tasks him with figure out how to do it. What's the path? Let's figure it out. About 2 weeks from today, it goes out. And by the way, yesterday I sold 1,000. 1,000 sales at $5 million is equivalent to $5 billion of revenue, which can then be used to fund infrastructure projects or pay down the national debt. By the way, there are 37 million people in the world who are capable of buying the Golden Visa card. So they just scratched the surface. The president, Howard Lutnick says, President Trump thinks that we can sell 1 million. Now, of course, just because people have money doesn't mean that we're not in danger of having characters and people we do not want in our country, even if they are millionaires and billionaires. And President Trump actually addressed this with Laura Ingraham this week. He was asked whether he was worried about any unsavory people coming in. And Trump admitted that there is a risk of this program attracting the wrong sort of people. Quote, yeah, I'm worried about unsavory, in which case we're going to give them the money back and they get out. Trump replied, adding that all individuals will be properly vetted before granted entry. You know, when you're talking about a lot of people, I think it's going to be very successful. And that is one of the big differences between President Trump and the leftist globalists. Leftist globalists are looking to take away our wealth and overwhelm us with people who have not paid into the tax system, but become a burden to the tax system. Free healthcare, free housing, free food, just free education, which they didn't pay for. And then not vetting them so that MS-13, Nicaragua, and very violent criminals come in, many of which were sent as operatives from their home countries like Venezuela. So give them everything and don't vet them. President Trump is the exact opposite. Vet them and make them pay for it. You literally cannot have diametrically opposite philosophies like we're seeing here with the Golden Visa program. And now we've got this Saturday, March 22nd, my anniversary. Thank you so much, all of you who have wished me and my wife a happy anniversary. I'm recording this because she says, I want to make a couple phone calls and I want to get ready. And I know that that's going to take a while. So I said, hey, why don't I just jump on and do another report while I'm waiting for my wife so we can continue to enjoy our 28th anniversary weekend. Now, we don't just take one day to celebrate it. We're going to celebrate it the whole entire weekend. Bad news for a couple of our favorite leftist women. On Saturday, President Trump expanded his list of state enemies, people not to be trusted, with the most sensitive information. Added to that list former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and former Vice President Kamala Harris. This is some good stuff. Here we go. Right on whitehouse.gov, rescinding security clearances and access to classified information from specified individuals. Wait a minute, James, you're giving us old news. No, you can see right there, this was dated Saturday, March 22nd, and this is an expansion of the list which we have covered in the past, which has been added to. If you recall, it's been about a couple weeks ago that I showed you this from DNI, Tulsi Gabbard. Per POTUS directive, I have revoked security clearances and barred access to classified information from Antony Blinken, Jake Sullivan, Lisa Monaco, Mark Said, Norman Eisen, Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, and Andrew Weissman, along with the 51 signers of the Hunter Biden disinformation letter. The president's daily brief is no longer being provided to former President Biden. Okay, so it should come as no surprise that added to that list in Saturday's presidential action memo that was put up, that it also added to that list Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. This action includes, but is not limited to, receipt of classified briefings such as the president's daily brief and access to classified information held by any member of the intelligence community by virtue of the named individual's previous tenure in the Congress. In the event that any of the named individuals received a security clearance by virtue of their employment with a private entity, the United States government entity that granted their security clearance should inform the private entity that these individuals' ability to access classified information has been revoked. So no runaround, no end run, and no loopholes. Everything's being cut off. And the memo is very clear in their attempt to circumvent getting this classified information because maybe an employer they now work for has access to it. They're to be notified, the employers to be notified that these particular employees are cut off from receiving any information they may have. Wow, that is one pretty core group of radical leftists in the old regime cabal. I want to share with you a quote from President Trump that the establishment media, as Michael Schwartz of the Western Journal puts it, had never wished that President Trump had never uttered, because it completely destroys their false narrative about President Trump and the dismantling of the Department of Education. I present to you the barely seen Trump quote on teachers that the establishment media wishes he never said.
I want to just make one little personal statement. Teachers, to me, are among the most important people in this country, and we're going to take care of our teachers. And I don't care if they're in the union or not in the union. That doesn't matter.
Very important point here, right? We hear the teachers union, which, as far as the teachers union, I would say the teachers union is probably one of the best unions in the country because they don't care about the kids. They don't care about education. They just care about the teachers and their ability to keep their jobs, make money, and game the system, essentially. They're all in it for the teachers as employees of an education system. That's why I thought it was ridiculous when I had small children and living in California, where you'd always see like these ads from, political ads saying to back this or back that measure or something that we'd be voting for in California. And it was always something that was absolutely destructive and did not help families and children. But it would always be like, but the teachers unions are behind it. And then I would talk to people, my leftist neighbors and Democrats, they go, but the teachers unions are behind this because it's for our kids. I go, the teachers unions are behind it because they're looking after the teachers, not our children. It seemed obvious to me. And it's obvious to you, and it's obvious to President Trump. But for some odd reason, it's not obvious to our leftist counterparts. Anyway, let's go back to President Trump. They hate that he said this because this is why this is good for all teachers, whether they are in unions or not.
But we're going to take care of our teachers, and I believe the states will take actually better care of them than their than they are taken care of right now. They'll work all sorts of systems and even merit systems. Those great teachers are going to be maybe a little bit better rewarded, or maybe that's the way it should be, but the states are going to make that decision. But we're going to love and cherish our teachers along with our children, and they're going to work with the parents, and they're going to work with everybody else, and it's going to be an amazing thing to watch.
President Trump loves our teachers, and he's freeing them, he's unshackling them from having to be beholden by bureaucracy in D.C. that is hampering the best teachers because of all these laws and rules and micromanagement from the District of Columbia. Turn it back to the states, turn it back locally. President Trump says they'll have more opportunities, right? Not just in regular schools, charter schools. There could be at a local level, they can figure out what's best for those students and how to attract, retain, and reward the best teachers for our students. It's going to be better for teachers. Of course, like any changes, there's some teething problems. There will be a little bit of woe and grief and heartache as the transition is made. But in the end, our students, our children are going to benefit from it, and good teachers are going to benefit from it as well. And that is why the left will never show you that clip from a few days ago, because they don't want the truth to go out. What President Trump really cares about is not just our students, but that teachers. He values teachers as well and wants to unshackle them. And of course, that goes against their narrative. All right, before I go and have a great meal with my wife of 28 years and then continue enjoying this weekend in which we're celebrating our 28th anniversary, just want to invite you to head over to bcpextras.com or therealbcp.com and check out episode 574. Did Trump-hating New York Attorney General Letitia James marry her father? Say what? What you talking about, Willis? What are you talking about, James? I don't know. Just head over to BCP Extras or therealbcp.com and you can find out. Have a great weekend, folks. I anticipate maybe one more report for you this weekend. Until then, ciao, goodbye. God bless.